Okay, to do the clothespin assignment, you need to have some understanding of your workspace. As you can see, I have properties hidden, even though I might need it. I also have my layout set up as I normally do with the ribbon up top. I'm in 3D modeling. You can do 3D basics as well, but modeling is going to be easier in my opinion. And I also have my bottom toolbar set up in my preferences. I would suggest always having dynamic input up open so that you can turn it on and off as needed. I always have it on so I can see my commands via the cursor instead of the actual command line. So when you do this one, it is easiest in my opinion to scale an image that you can trace over so that when you create the wood pieces of the clothespin with the 3D printer, the spring actually will fit. And you have to be pretty precise in your measurements. So go and find an image that has a clothespin that looks very similar to what you already have. So here's the image I want to use. And you want to make sure you have a straight view of it so that you can trace it. Now this one's at an angle, so you're going to have to modify that, but you can do that on screen. So what I would do is just go ahead and import it. It'll be attached to your cursor and go ahead and create it. If you do it this way, you have more manipulation options rather than a cut and paste, because if you see when I select it, I can fade it so that I can see through the image as I draw, okay? So once you have it faded, you're gonna want this to be straight. So to do that is you would just do a line from your pivot point and make sure it's straight, so put your ortho on, okay? And then you would create the line that you want it to be, or the angle that you want it to modify at, right? So remember when we did our dimensioning, we used an angular dimension by selecting angular and then selecting our two lines, okay? Now, that's 33. So you should be able to rotate this 33 degrees to get it to be perfect if you use the same pivot point. Now remember, your main concern in your measurements is where this is, the depth of this indent, and this location, because you need this spring to fit your clothespin. So what you'll go ahead and do is you'll go ahead and start to draw your clothespin. Now you can just use your tools, right? And I would just use arc here. If it lets you. If it doesn't, you can just automatically do it on your own, okay? How you can use line actively is if you use polyline, okay? You'll automatically have options. You can see them down here. So you can just continue on straight. If you want an arc, you'll hit A, okay? And the nice thing about it, let me go back so I can show you, is you can manipulate it. So say I choose to do my arc to here. It looks like it's a straight line. Go back to my line, straight, arc from here to here, okay? Then I go back to a straight line and just use L, up, and then I'm gonna close it, okay? So I have this little arc here and I can go ahead and manipulate it, okay? So, and I will, okay? That's what a polyline is going to allow you to do. It'll automatically be joined. Because one of the problems that we have is that it's not joined. So now you have this unit, you're going to join it, and then hopefully you can extrude it. Sometimes you can't. You're going to have to look and see why that might be, okay? Now, my clothespin is 3 inches long from point to point. So I'm not quite sure how long this one is, but we're gonna have to figure out how to make it the right length. So what I'm gonna do is activate those snap points, okay? And I'm gonna type in 3, okay? And as you can see, I'll just put it over here so you can see it. That's where 3 should be. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to go ahead and scale, okay? So this is my base point, okay? And I want to do a reference, so R, okay? So my reference is not a straight line to here, and I want to bring it to my original point. Okay, walk that back if you need to so you know. So now this is my actual clothespin size for printing. Okay, so what you'll need to do is make sure your dimensions here all match up the piece. You're going to have to go in, okay, and make sure that this distance from here to here is correct, all right, and your depth is correct. So once I have that, this can disappear. So you can just fade it all the way out if you want. And now you're going to have this piece that you need to mirror, okay? I would do a line, and it's very inconsequential how long the line is. I mean, I'm just gonna do 0.05, and I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna mirror it across this line, and make sure I go straight down, okay? So now I have two of them, okay? It might not be perfect as far as how close they are, and you can manipulate that, okay? Now, how tall is it? Okay, I'm gonna turn it so I can look at it. I need to extrude this, okay? And it's all joined, so they're extruding just fine. I don't see any meshes, so it's extruding just fine. So let's give this a height of 1.5. Whoa, too much. So I don't have one in my hand, so let's extrude it at 1.75 maybe? Still a little thick in my opinion. But remember, if I go ahead and I look at this in, let's say, conceptual, okay, I can go ahead and use my press pull and say, I don't like how far that was. I'm going to change it by 1/4, okay? But just make sure your height's correct or it'll be a problem. Now, here comes the tricky part with this. You need to create the spring. So go ahead and look at it straight on. Now, this is where your spring is, let's say, and you're going to want to do a helix. Now, you can do a line right to the edge so that you have a base to go on. And what I would do is create your helix from that center point here. Now, it might not be perfect. The spring is circular, but the spring sets against the wood. So you're not really having too big of an issue in that regard as far as I'm concerned. So go ahead and make your spring. Remember, you're gonna sweep it, so you need extra diameter around that spring, okay? And you want both your beginning and ending radiuses to be the same, okay? So remember what that is. And then you'll decide on your height. I would go ahead and turn it to the side. And I want it to, come past the height of my legs or my arms or whatever you want to call these things, okay? Now, I got to look at it from the side and I can see it, okay? And I want to move it. Now, will it let me move it? Yes, as long as I use the arrows. If I don't use the arrows, you're going to be a little bit off, okay? Now, is that enough twists? No. So go to your properties, okay? They should all be over here. Make sure you can read everything, otherwise it doesn't make any sense, right? And your turn height is fine, your turns aren't. So let's do 6. And make it, okay, so let's see, there it goes. Okay, sometimes it stalls, don't worry. Okay, so before you actually start anything, what you have to realize is the beginning and the ending of this are on the same side, which is not a good idea. So what you're gonna do is you're going to go ahead and change it, if it allows you to. Oops. To, okay. Now you see what I did? I did a half. So you have one on this side, you have one on that side, okay? So obviously you need the torque of the edges. So for the spring itself. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna have this one going to the opposite side and that one going to the other. So in order to do that, this is the one on top. What I want you to do is I want you to create a line that goes from this opening across, okay? And then what I want you to do is make sure your ortho is on, create a line that goes straight up, okay? Very simple. Just go straight up. It needs to go a little bit past. It can be in line with this one if you want it to be, okay? And then once you have that, you can connect them, okay? Now, you're gonna wanna change the fillet on these. And remember, if it hasn't been changed yet, you're gonna have to change it. So you may have to play with this a little bit. So if I want the fillet to this to that, too much, okay? So go back to radius and change it to like 0.075. That seems better, okay? Click on it and you're happy, okay? Maybe over here that works better too, but it won't let you because it's too much, okay? All right. So that would be your first arm, okay? Clean it up as necessary. Now, 1 second. Remember, when you're looking at this, you need to make sure that you're working on the right planes, okay? So you're gonna use your coordinates. One of the easiest ways to do it is to go ahead and just do it by your view, sorry, the gray one, okay? So can I join these? This is another problem that you might run into. 3 objects joined into 1 spline. Splines can be iffy, so I would back out of that, okay? And wait on that, okay? The other thing I would say is let's rotate this, okay? Oops. Around this, oops. Center point. However, remember I changed the plane. So we're gonna go back to our world coordinates so you can see the grid again. And I want this to rotate around the center point. Come on, buddy. Without that, so that I can see it rotating around. Really took it too far, didn't it? Okay. It's giving me trouble, so it's giving me trouble. Let's like not do that for you, and let's say we did 6.7. No, I'm just trying to get it to a point that we're all gonna be happy with. So 6.65, is that gonna be better? Yeah, look at that. That's better, because it's gonna make this angle smooth. See it? Okay, so now this one might be off though. So just pay attention to that. Okay, but I think it'll be okay. All right, so now you need to do the other side, and it's gonna be the same detail, but it's gonna be on the underneath. Okay, so oops. Let's go ahead and put it in X-ray. I like to mainly work in X-ray. And then let's get rid of this because it's giving me a hassle, and if it's giving me a hassle, it's probably gonna give you a hassle. So this one, we're gonna make the line up top. So I'm gonna do a line in the middle, just like I did before, across. Then I'm gonna go ahead and do a repeat line down the middle of this, straight down. Make sure your ortho is on, okay? And I wanna make sure, oh, look, I put it somewhere weird. Never good. Okay, let's make sure we're on the right line when I make it. That would help life. Okay, so if we go straight down, let's bring it past. Now, if you know the height of it, you'll know you're fine when you're fine. And so then I could have another line go from this point to that point, let's say. Okay, that's good. So I should have my fillet still intact that I did before. So just make sure and turn it. Okay, so let's see what we got. Looks okay. Now, I have a curve, I have all of this that need to be joined, okay? If you don't join them before you do your sweep, you're gonna be struggling. So don't do that. Go ahead and do that and join them. Now, hopefully we're happy and it's all one piece. Now, that's all good, it's all fine and dandy, but if it doesn't sweep, we're all out of luck. Now remember with sweep, it doesn't matter where you create the actual object you're sweeping, and remember, we are just doing a circle. So it's not gonna matter the orientation of it either. So go ahead with your sweep, collect your object, and then sweep your line. Whoops. Didn't do it right. My object, enter, I always forget, and path. Hey, look, there you go. Okay, so the reason we joined it is so that everything is smooth, conceptual. Okay, so here it is. There it is. There's your clothespin. So once you create that, you're gonna have to put materials on it and play with that and make your render.